What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and today I wanted to go into episode number 3 for our power rankings for the Democratic candidate for nomination to run for president. We've gone through episode 1 and 2 already, which were the Google search volume for each candidate, and we ranked them 1 through 10, and we used the list of 10 candidates who are qualified to for the September 12th debate. Then yesterday we looked at the YouTube search volume for each one of these candidates, and we did another ranking where Andrew Yang was actually number 1 in YouTube and in the top 5 on Google. So tonight what we want to take a look at is their website and their website performance on 3 specific factors. We want to take a look at their website on their the ranking within the United States. So this is think of it as like a global ranking, but just in the United States. So a United States ranking of their website's popularity. So we're going to rank that, and then we're going to take a look at the amount of time people spend on that site. Because the more time you can capture of somebody else's, the more relevant I feel that is, right? If you can capture 10 minutes of somebody's time versus somebody else who captures 2 minutes on their website, holding everything else ceteris paribus just means the same. I mean, it just seems like that person's just doing a better job. They can get 10 minutes of somebody's time every time they come to the website versus this person on average only gets 2 minutes. So that's why we use that. And then page views, similarly, if you can get people to click through on more pages on your website, I just feel like you're doing a better job. Before we get into any of that stuff, we're going to take a little bit of time to just understand what those factors are that make up the power ranking, and then we're going to get a little bit into the actual strategy that behind all this. So with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's up? My name is Sam, and if you're a returning user or watcher or viewer, it's good to freaking see you. Now, with that being said, let's get into the power rankings. As we mentioned, we had the YouTube search, the Google search and the YouTube search. These are the first 2 factors. The next one is going to be the website. Then tomorrow we have something good. We're going to dive into Facebook. So we're going to take a look at the growth rate of the following for each one of these players, along with a couple other factors like the number of likes and that kind of thing, to come up with a Facebook ranking for these players. Then we're going to jump over to Twitter and their actual YouTube channel. So we're going to look at the YouTube search, but then we're going to look more specifically at their YouTube channel and how is their YouTube channel growing over time. And then there might be a bonus round too, as you can see here. I haven't decided, but the volume of output of creative over like a month or a certain period of time, I think that would be a valuable gauge to understand how somebody's progressing or how somebody is doing. So with that being said, the one right before that, number 7, and this is the last category that we're going to do in this power ranking, and then we're just going to perpetually update this as we move along, is we're going to take a look at the percentage of donors that are small. The higher the percentage of small donors, the higher the ranking in our ranking. So the more small donors, the higher the ranking, because if you have lobbyists or companies or just a large donor that gives you several $1 million, or company that gives you $7 million, or lobbyists that give you several $1 million. Most of the time it's substantially less, but you get the point. I think it's more telling to understand how relevant somebody is because there's a greater number of people following, even if everybody's donating less than $200. And that is the definition that we are using, less than $200 in donations. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So to start out with, I wanted to take a look at some of their strategy before we actually dive into their websites. So this is going to be the outside view, and then we're going to take a look behind the curtain to see those 3 factors for their website. the ranking in the US, the amount of time on the site, and the page views. So I put that together for you. But first, I jumped over to incognito mode, and in incognito mode, I just Googled, as you can see here at the top, we've just got each player's name and website. That's all I Googled, right? And I wanted to see what came up. So we have 4 people who are doing advertising here. And to a lot of people, somebody doing advertising would probably be a good thing, right? But I want to get into a little bit more of the subtle nuances of driving traffic. Generally speaking, I'm sure somebody could come up with a very some type of scenario where driving traffic to somebody else's real estate is better than driving traffic to your own real estate. Most of the time it's better to drive traffic to your own real estate. What does that mean? Just real estate is a web page. So right, if you were driving traffic to this website right here for Pete, that would probably be better than driving traffic to, you know, Pete's Facebook page or something like that, or something similar like this Wikipedia page or something, you know? Like, it's just more valuable if you do it on your own shit. Okay, so we look at Pete, he's not advertising. And why do we jump over to incognito mode? Incognito mode is going to show the most authentic view because I use Chrome, and there's a profile built for me on Chrome in terms of the ads that I get shown. So I wanted to pull back from that a little bit, and that's why I jumped it over to incognito mode, because there's no profile built to it. It doesn't save the cookies or the search history or any of that stuff on Chrome. So you get a much more authentic view when you search. By the way, if you're ever looking for plane tickets or things like that, pull up incognito and search in incognito mode, and then if you have to do more searching, close it down and open it up again. A little bit of a pro tip there. So we come over to Camilla. She is advertising, as you can see right here. She's sending traffic to her site. Kudos, good job. As you can see, when we get through the rest of these, she is the only one who is driving traffic to her site. So that is a prudent thing. If you look at this, right? So this is for Amy Klobuchar for president. So here's her website, but she's driving traffic somewhere else. She's driving traffic. Blue Act, as you can see here, the blueact.com. That's like, from my understanding, it's like PayPal for politicians to raise money and do the reporting. So that's like the foundation of where they raise the money. But if you, so Amy is sending traffic. We'll just make a note of that. I'll get more into the details in a second. Bernie Sanders, no ads. He does have a Senate seat, and his Facebook page come up. Let's go look at Pete's really quick. He's got a Wikipedia, then his Facebook. Andrew Yang has Wikipedia, and then Twitter. Kamala has her site. She's advertising for her site. Then she's got her site, a bunch of links in here. And then for Harris, so the next, Amy, she has the donation site, her Senate site, and then her Twitter. Bernie Sanders, okay, fucking boring. Joe Biden. What I noticed here, which is kind of interesting, check this out. This, I don't think, is necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing either. It just gives less, it's more risk, reputation risk. Because Joe Biden, if you look under Joe Biden and you search for that term, Joe Biden website, the #2 search results from time.com, which means that Time can influence what people think about your name, because they come up #2 when somebody searches for this term. So I wouldn't say that's a higher risk right here, where see Sanders come up and then his Facebook comes up. So Sanders can influence all of this stuff, all these top 3 things, and probably this thing too. I'm assuming this is probably his as well. Amy, she's got her Twitter and this, so she can influence that. Kamala Harris, she has these 2 things, so she can influence those. Andrew Yang does not. So, but the only thing about this is, what does Time do? Time.com. they just put out articles, right? So they're going to have some type of bias, whether that's just trying to get clicks or some type of bias, right? Where, and Wikipedia probably will too, but there's going to be a lot less output from Wikipedia than there's going to be from Time.com. So I'm not as much of a I'm going to say that's a bad thing to do it from Wikipedia. Pete, Wikipedia, and then his Facebook page. He controls the Facebook page. So from Joe Biden's standpoint, I would say that he is at more reputation risk than everybody else we've looked at so far. Cory Booker, again, he is driving traffic to somebody else's site. Why would you pay to drive traffic to somebody else's site? Again, on he's got all of his shit up on the first page, so that is good, other than driving traffic somewhere else. Elizabeth Warren, she's got a lot of links. I feel like she has more links than everybody else. Kamala has a bunch. Andrew has a bunch. But Elizabeth Warren, I think, has the most, which is good. You're probably going to get a lot more traffic this way. I'm not sure how this even works to get all these up here, but then she has her senator site, and then Wikipedia, videos, and more Wikipedia. Beto O'Rourke, I actually thought this was a female. No offense to the dude. I never realized it was a dude until I Googled the name and realized it was a guy. But he has the first link and the second link. And then his Twitter. The last is this guy, Julian. He is also advertising to somebody else's site, or a party that's related to him or wants him to be president is advertising. So either way, now to get a little bit more into the nuanced strategy of this, if you need donations, it is almost always, in my opinion, going to be better. Not all the time, right? That we can come up with some weird scenario where it's not. But if you want to raise money and you think that Blue Act has a better landing page, just copy it. So literally, click on this link. Whoever does your web, copy this site. Like, get this picture, whether you have to get it from Getty Images or something like that. Get all the text in here, get all this, because if this is working for them, it's converting. But don't drive them over to Blue Act. Take exactly that, make a carbon copy of that landing page and put it on your website. Because if you put it on your website, then you have their email address. You have that watch time. You can get them to click on another link. You can optimize all that stuff. You can get them to click over to your YouTube. You can get them to click over to your Instagram. You can get them to click over to your Facebook. You can't do that over there. Like, look how generic this is. And this is good because he's got this landing in the back one. He's got his picture, I'm assuming this is him, in the background. If you come over to Amy here, let's take a look at what hers is. Hers is basic as fuck. Like, there's no picture or anything. Like, why would you send anybody here? Like, she could have links to her policy pages. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. If you think that this is converting people, copy exactly this and put it on your website and drive traffic there. It's just much higher ROI. Anyways, those are the subtle things I wanted to notice. Kamala is the only one who is driving traffic to her site, so maybe she will have a higher ranking. We are about to get into that. Also, I wanted to draw your attention to two things on this Wikipedia page. We've got the debates here. The first debate was June 26th and 27th, which we're going to go through the details, and I'll point that out. And the next debate was the 30th and the 31st of July. So, let's go over here. Who do we have first? This is Pete. So, this trend right here, we're going to take a look at this, and then we'll look at those three factors. Right? So, his on a global basis, it ranks at 61,000, and in the United States, ranks at 12,000. So, in the past 12 months, his is down and to the right. Let's take a look at the date here. Nope. Let's take a look at right here. He saw a little bit of change in momentum right here. And if we look back, that's the when the first debate was, right here. Right around here, something happened, and he was not popular. This is probably the second debate. Yep, this is the second debate. So you can see how that influences his website. Just getting that extra exposure got a little bit more popularity. He went from 56,000th worldwide to 52,000th worldwide. So that's kind of interesting. But anyways, he's got a U.S. ranking of 12,000, 1.9 page views, 2.03 for the amount of time. These are all down. I'm not giving the direction too much weighting right at this moment. Although over this 90-day period, you can see that his global ranking is down 27,000 spots. That's pretty substantial. Let's take a look at Andrew Yang. His is like a big U. So I started noticing his when it was right around here. So it's just continued up and to the right, and you can see the slope of this line. Right, his is down to the right just gently. Yang's is up and to the right. Even though over this 90-day period it doesn't look like he's grown that much, maybe like 2,000 spots on a global basis. If you look at in the United States, so in the U.S., his site's ranked 2,100th. That's crazy. You also look at the page views. He's got greater page views than Pete, right? 1.9 versus 2.5, and the amount of time on the site is just dwarfs him. 3 minutes and 13 seconds versus 3 minutes and 2 minutes and 3 seconds. So that's kind of interesting. Let's go over here. So now we have Kamala Harris, and what I'm looking at to know what site it is up here. Kamala Harris right there at the top. Hers is ranked 17,000. She's got all indicators up, but if you're advertising, I would think that's probably going to be the case. She's up 17,000 spots in this period on a global basis. So look at this right here. This is what I wanted to draw your attention to. This is a 26th. She was ranked 95,000th and a half, and 96,000. She was losing progress right here. Coming into the first debate, she must have done something very intelligent or said something very intelligent, because she immediately skyrocketed, or maybe that's when she started advertising. I don't know. I do feel like she might have a more thoughtful approach to her advertising, given that she is actually advertising to her website where the other players are not advertising to their website. So it just doesn't seem like a super intelligent thing to do. Or I don't have the full story, so I can't say that really. But you see that there's been no progress in the past 60 days, roughly. It's just been up and down. It looks like it's been trending up slightly for the past month or so, but just to back where it was 2 months ago. So not too much progress. Page views, 2 page views less than Yang, 2 minutes and 8 seconds. That's up. So these are. I mean, it's good, heading in the right direction. Still not compared to Yang in terms of the total ranking right here in the U.S. 2,100th. Hers is 17,000th. And I did populate everything into a Excel sheet so you guys can get to see everything. Look at this person. We're looking at Amy at this point. On a global basis, her site is not fucking ranked. It's just like way the fuck out there. In the U.S., it's 75,000th. That's not super good at all. Andrew Yang's was 2,100th. She also doesn't have very many page views or much time on people's so what this represents is how on average people click on 1.8 page views. So you click on one link, right, and then on average people click on 1.8 links, right? So if you have 1,000 people, on average each person clicks on 1.8. Obviously one person clicks on 46, you know what I mean, another person clicks on 12, and then 14 people don't click on anything. You know, the average is 1.8. The total amount of time on the site is just under 2 minutes here. Let's go through the rest of these a little bit quicker. Bernie Sanders, his, you can see, is all over the place. It's there's not a clear trend to this, except for over this past month or so, he's been up. And as you can see, right here is when the other debate was. Remember, the second debate started on July 30th through the 31st. So as you can see, there's a big spike there, and he's been trending up and to the right in the most recent 30 days. His U.S. ranking of his website is 4,700th, so he's the closest to Andrew Yang so far on that ranking. But when you look at the page views, meaning the total number of pages people are looking at on his site, it's 1.9 and 1 minute and 52 seconds. So one's up and one's down. It's also interesting, there's 1.2% of the traffic is coming from Canada, where everybody else is primarily from the U.S., except for Yang. He's also got 2.2% from Canada and 1.3% from Australia, where that's kind of interesting. But this is just the ranking in the U.S., and that's all we're going to use. Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden is an interesting graph here over the last 90 days. I know this is on a global basis. He was losing, it looks like, gaining from 108,000th to 62nd. So this doesn't correspond with the debate, but if you look here, this is the 24th. When was the debate? July 30th. So I would put conjecture out there and say that during the lead up to the second debate, there's probably a lot more coverage of these other candidates, and that probably directly caused his decline on his website. And then the day after the debate, he saw a little bit of a spike, as you can see right here. There was a little bit of an uptick in traffic, just a tiny little bit there, but it's been basically flat and down to the right just by a couple degrees. His overall U.S. ranking, though, isn't too bad, 16,000, 1.9 page views, and 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Let's see what Cory Booker has. Remember, Amy and Cory were driving traffic somewhere else, so hers is like 75,000 and 338th. Let's take a look at Cory's. Cory's is 230th and 38,000th. So imagine what Cory's would be like if he was actually driving traffic to his site instead of sending it to a donations page, which he can still send it to a donations page on his site. That's going to be more valuable. Integrate it into the background. Over the past 30 days, you can see that he's clearly got a trend up and to the right. I think just taking maybe a little bit thoughtful, more approach to the strategy on each one of the platforms that we're gauging in our power ranking could probably help him drastically, because he's up and to the right. Similarly, like Yang, if we take a look at Yang's is up and to the right recently, and so is Cory Booker's. At obviously not as much of a slope in terms of the line of growth, or as steady. Andrew Yang's is just up and to the right, fairly smooth, where his is jagged, but it is still up and to the right. 1.5 page views, so not many page views, and 1 minute and 40 seconds. I actually believe he had the worst. I just gave away one of the rankings right here for the time on his site when we ranked those. Elizabeth Warren. So this is the only one out of all of these is Elizabeth Warren's, that she started at 46,000 on a global basis, and she's up on a global basis to around 29,000, and her U.S. ranking is 52nd, 5,300th in terms of her global or her U.S. ranking. She also has a lot of page views, almost 3 page views per visit. So something is going on with Elizabeth Warren. We will keep updated as we keep updating our power rankings, because that is the whole purpose of this, is to put out a power ranking that actually represents what is happening in the market, not what the media says is happening. Not this polling that's based on 500 people responses. We can see what tens and hundreds of thousands of people are doing by looking at the data. And that's what we're doing. And that's why we created this power ranking. So if you want to get the message out there, make sure you smash that like button. It helps the channel out. Tell your friends about it if you don't want to smash the like button. I think more of this data needs to be out there in the public. She also has really good time on her site at just under 3 minutes. Let's take a look at this guy here. Beto O'Rourke or something. And his is also, remember, he was not doing anything in terms of advertising, and I'd never heard of him. His ranking in the U.S. isn't too bad, 27,500. And over the past 90 days, though, this has just been down and to the right. So he was flat, like probably never heard of, or just wasn't updated in here. And then he's been losing ground since, when was the date here? June 13th. Let's go back here. When was the first debate? The 27th. So he's been losing ground. It looks like right around then he saw a little bit of uptick, and then he did not do very good in the debates. Because if you look, This is right after the debate. He lost ground at a more rapid pace where a lot of the other players actually picked up. Same thing after the second debate, which was the 30th and the 31st of July. He didn't see any uptick. I guess if you look at from July 31st to today, he actually has seen a slight upward trajectory in terms of his growth, just ever so slightly. The last candidate we have before we go into the total rankings, and I have them all nicely put into a spreadsheet so we can take a look at them, is this gentleman named Julian Castro. So for his, we've got a minute 54 and 1.6 for the page views. One is up, the other one is down. On the global ranking, let's take a look at Betos. Okay, his was there. His 150,000th and 26th in the United States. So similarly as this person's here, which is Beto. I'm not sure. You guys can correct me down below if I'm saying this guy's name, Beto, wrong. He has also had a tremendous amount of growth over this period of time. I don't even know who this dude was at all. I don't know any of these people. I don't follow politics. I just wanted to look at the data here. And if you look, right after the first debate, he must have done really well because he gained a lot of attention. And if you look again here, he started to gain a lot more attention. So we've got two data points here, right? Over the past 90 days, after the first debate, he did very well in terms of gaining popularity. And then again, gained more popularity. So he's been doing very well, not as steady as Elizabeth Warren. This is what Elizabeth Warren, hers has just been up and to the right gradually. His has been much more jagged, like it slowed out for about a month, and now it's been up and to the right. And his U.S. ranking was 26,500 almost. Now, let's jump over to this. This is a little bit too big here. So this is the ranking. So we've got page views, time, and the U.S. popularity. And we have the page views right here. So if you look over to the side, this is the ranking in terms of the page views. So we have Elizabeth Warren. She was number 1. Andrew Yang was number 2. She had 1.9, he had 2.5, and you can see everybody else is on there too, with Cory Booker pulling up the rear. Let's take a look at those 3 people who are advertising to somebody else's site. Well, like anybody else who wants to advertise to my YouTube channel, go right ahead. Like, go ahead and spend that money. That's a good idea. Or just put me in contact with the people who are running these campaigns, and I bet I can get them better results. In all honesty. Okay, so with that being said, Pete, he's number 4, but this is kind of interesting with Andrew Yang being number 1. Now we jump over to the amount of time that people spend on the site, and Andrew Yang is number 1 here, and Elizabeth Warren is number 2. Number 3 is Joe Biden, which is kind of interesting. And number 4 is Kamala Harris. So, with that being this ranking, we have this is similar to say what the polls or the legacy media players might say in terms of their coverage, where Kamala, Joe Biden, and Elizabeth Warren are all on the top, but Sanders is missing. He's number 7th, and Andrew Yang is number 1, which is both of those things are not representative in the legacy. Or when I say legacy, I'm like CNN and Fox and MSNBC and ABC and CBS and NBC. All of those players. That's who I'm talking about when I say legacy media players. Now, this is the U.S. popularity. So we just briefly looked at it, and all I did is just put the numbers over here. And then we can see that Andrew Yang was number 1 by a wide margin. The next closest was Bernie Sanders, followed up by Elizabeth Warren, and then lastly is Pete Buttigieg, blah, blah, whatever the fuck his thing is. So, what I did over here, we took a weighted average of these 3 factors. I think the U.S. popularity of their website is probably the most relevant out of these 3 factors. So that is why that is represented by the 0.6. If you look what is highlighted right there. So that is 60% of the weighted average. The other 2 factors right here, the time is represented by 20%. And the last one over here, the page views is represented by 20%. You could argue that page views in time are only 5%. Or 10%, but this is the overall website ranking. So it's not going to all be garnered by one thing. The aggregate of everything is what adds up to this ranking. So when we take that weighted average, we look at who pulls up number one, and that is Andrew Yang. That's kind of interesting though, because he doesn't show up anywhere even close to being in the top, 3 or 4 spots. Anywhere close. And we've been doing this power ranking for the past 3 days, analyzing these different factors, which I just talked about, right? Google search, YouTube search. We're looking at the website. Tomorrow we're looking at the Facebook. The next day we're going to look at Twitter, and then YouTube, and then donations, and possibly that bonus round. And he's doing pretty well in all of our rankings so far. So that you get to decide. I just want to give you the data. You get to decide what is actually going on. I'm not saying that, people have biases. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy theory at all by any stretch of the imagination. It's very well documented in the literature that human beings have biases in their psychology. There's something called the status quo. The status quo, or there's people use other names in the research. And if you have an opt-in for a 401k versus a opt-out for a 401k, which one would you predict has a higher rate of participation? The opt-out, meaning if you put people into a 401k, which here in the United States is a tax-advantaged retirement account. If you put somebody in a 401k and then they have to say they don't want to be into it, versus if you hire somebody and then they give them the option to get into it, people just stay with whatever you put them at. So if you put them into a 401k to start with, they'll stay there. If you don't put them in 401k, they'll stay there. So the status quo, I think, probably plays a factor in these legacy media players and companies, because you can see it in the coverage. I just did another video on CNN's bias and talked all about that. So if you want to see that video, make sure you press that subscribe button. I believe that video is coming out on Tuesday. 2 hours after this video is released, there is the deep dive analysis into Andrew Yang's YouTube channel, where this is what people or companies pay consultants for. So I dove into his YouTube channel to really take a deep dive at what is going on, what is he doing good, but also more importantly, what are some opportunities where he could optimize his website or his YouTube page to get more views, get more watch time, get more traffic, get more donations, get more awareness and relevance in 2019. So if you want to see that video, it's coming out 2 hours after this one. Press that subscribe button, press that bell notification so YouTube will notify you when that video comes out. That is a 2-part series. 2 hours after the first part releases, the second part will be releasing. So make sure to stay tuned for that. If you have any questions about any of the stuff that I did here, I tried to put it all up here so it's easy to follow. If you like this new format, let me know down below in the comments. This is the first time trying this out with the camera and the software recording my screen. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Press that thumbs up button. If you think this message should be in front of more people, if more people should see what we're doing here, either tell them about it or share this video with them. I'm not just saying it because I want more views. You don't have to share this video with them. Just fucking tell them about it. They can Google this stuff themselves. Obviously, if you do share this video with them, it does tremendously help out the channel and gets this message in front of more people. So thank you so much. If you guys want to jump over to Instagram, link is in the description. Come over to Instagram, say what's up. I do Instagram stories every day. Some stuff of this, but a lot more related to fitness. So if you want to follow along there, there's a link in the description. Appreciate you guys. Peace. And now I got to figure out how to stop this.